this is really very simple. Because you see, the thing that I found out a long time ago is that a lot of the people in my groups would be able to do lots and lots of hypnosis, and at a certain point there'd be certain things they couldn't do. Now, as Milton said, if you spend hundreds of hours with these people, eventually they will learn to do the hypnotic phenomenon. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I ain't got that kind of time. Right? Especially if you're a dentist, or a chiropractor, or just a hedonist like me. Most of those people aren't that much fun anyway. However, what happened is one day somebody came over, and what I did is they couldn't do positive hallucinations. They can do negative hallucinations, although I thought they were hallucinating through most of their life. What I did is I told them to look at the table. They looked at the table, and I said, close your eyes, and you count to 4, and you look there. There'll be a picture. And they close their eyes, and I put a picture on the table. And they went, 1, 2, 3. They opened their eyes, and they looked, and I said, now, close your eyes. And I put them back onto the table. And they opened their eyes. Now, wait a minute. This is the important part. I said, now close your eyes again. And when you turn to the other side and open them, there'll be a 6-foot French poodle. And when they opened their eyes, there was, and I didn't put that one there. Now, what happened is by convincing this person that they were able to do it, it changed a belief. Now, think of the most overwhelmingly wonderful things that you could have and realize if you do the exercise here and change, and all you got to do is real simple, is you take the belief that stops them from dropping into a really deep trance, deeper than they would ever suspect, and something that they used to believe and they don't, and you go through and you take the submodalities. Picture's bigger here than in this one, just one on one side but not the other, color, contrast, and all this other stuff. Now, the only thing you want to know is if there's a difference. Now, once you kind of go through that, then what you do is you take the strong belief that prevents them from being able to do this, and you turn it into one just like the one that's changed. That makes sense, doesn't it? And then the next thing you do is you put up the belief they would rather have about how they could drop into a trance beyond their own comprehension, and you make it a strong belief. And as you do so, guess what happens? This person believed it strongly enough to disappear. These people believed it strongly enough that they started making the same stuff again. That's great. You take the most successful product in American history and you change the formula. Some people are operating with the wrong people making those decisions. Are they not? Now, at least they had the sense to bring it back. Because if there were some corporations, I know they wouldn't. These people are going to be around a lot longer than us. And probably Pepsi. Unless I get their ad account.
Let me just make a suggestion. Raise your hand if you know about submodalities. Okay. Look around the room.
Hold your hands up. Get them up.
Look around the room.
If you don't know about submodalities, pick one of these people as your partner. So if you don't understand, they can explain it to you. And you can do this very fast. And you can take 20 minutes apiece, do the exercise, and end up in a deeper trance than you ever have before. Yes. What? Orgasm? Oh, you can do that part. Well, that was on the back. Yeah, that was just the way that she could go. See, come here. Let me show you. I want to show you, but I don't want you. Trust me, I'm a doctor. When I lie on you, I lie to you. Trust. Okay, there's trust. You know, right on Newsfeed, they took me to one of them groups where you do the trust circle. I'd drop a sucker. Because I figure if you don't ever do that, then they won't have to really trust. It doesn't take trust if you got a guarantee. But every once in a while, somebody steps aside and goes, oh, shit. Right? Then it takes trust. Or stupidity. All right, you sit up here. Now. Your gum flew out? So what? Now, what I want you to do is I'll put your hands like this, right? And I want you to take this side here. That's the rest of them. Lift it up like that. Now I want you to move like this. There. And I want you to squeeze your wrist. All the way down. That's right. There you go. Now I want you to remember absolutely everything from your last trance. Because this is the way you can always go into a trance. And when you go down, you can also come up. Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
Now, people really can't make each other feel things, can they?
No way.
Come on down. Now, you won't need this. Yeah, teachers are like that. No, you don't need to sit down. We're going to have you stand up. Say, we are going to manipulate you physically. Okay. There's nothing to be afraid of. So you can feel relaxed and calm. Now, you notice as you look over here, how the light kind of reflects off of that thing over there, the lens on the camera? Yeah, or one of the pieces of metal or something. I want you to just we'll take care of your hands, okay? Grab a hand. Let's take a hand. We're going to take a hand in this and see. We can't help you in some way to learn about going into a deep trance. Now, so as you fixate your gaze on that, no matter what happens, your eyes are to stay right there. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to move you, and you just watch carefully how that reflection. Okay? That's right. Now, ready? Ready? Now, all we're going to do is we're going to take your hand. We're going to go like that. That's not so bad. And then we're going to bring it down. There we go. And then we're going to go. And down. Like that. that you should use for the future, but only to take the good stuff and make it stronger and better and more exquisitely pleasurable, such that to this words, you will realize that every single time you have that good feeling, one of your problems will go away and last forever and ever in smoke. That's right. Visually, of course. And when you see children in your class that start to bother you and do things that you don't like, suddenly something will make it so it doesn't bother you quite so much. So when you see the things they do that bother you, all I want you to do is just feel this inside you and know that you have built to recover this and enjoy anytime you want. Even though the little bastards bother you. When you do those nasty things, you'll get that smile, and you know something? Just that smile will be enough to stop them. Right in their tracks. That works with big fool kids, too, you know. Now, I'm going to count to 1. And when I do, very slowly, you're going to arise in this trance. 10, and you can do the rest. 9, 8, 1, 7, 5, minus 4 is 1. 1. Well, that's shitty, isn't it, to do to some poor innocent person, you know? Excuse me, you're in my way, boy. Grab yourself a stool. Now, the thing about going into a trance is being able to take all the feelings, all the thoughts, and everything you know, like how to turn that speaker in the back sideways so it doesn't echo. Basic acoustics. See how much nicer that is? Now, what I want you to do, what time is it? 4:44 and 22 seconds. Speaking of pain, control, you know, if you're going to be precise and exquisite in your use of something, it should at least be below your belt, Edmund. Some things go up, some go down, and in this case, we're going to reverse those. Now, what I would like you to do is to realize, now what you watched us do is to use cross-cortical tactics. See, the thing is what we did is basically, and see, I figured that what we do is we give you an exercise to try. Because you know what homework is? That's where you take this and you do it to somebody at home. Now, I know some of you aren't going home, but that's why you'll have to find somebody who's in whatever home you're using now.
Or one of the hotel staff.
Or somebody that attracts you in the lobby, bar, or the pool area, or wherever you do your trolling. Now, that's where you throw out your line, get them hooked, and then you just reel them in. The sales technique. Now, what I want you to do is to use this technique, and what I'd like is for, if you can, how many of you are staying here in the hotel? To my condolences. Includes me. Those of you who are staying here can seriously get together, and what I would like you to do is one stands on one side of you and one stands on the other. Now, if there are only 2 of you, you have to stand in front of the person, which does open up certain possibilities, depending upon how well you're about to know them. What you do is you're bringing both hands up together. I tell you what, why don't you stand up and spread out here, because I would really like you to know how to do this in class. Okay, now you take your hands, make sure the person in front of you is not too close, unless you want something else. What I want you to do is to take your hands and slowly, bring them both up, palm up, and stare ahead, fixated, very gently. That you went up too high, lady. Pay attention, Joe. So it's like this. Arms bent like that. There you go. Up like that, and then give it a little downward motion, and then point one and go one palm up. 1 point, and one is palm up. Right? And this one's lower. Come on, Joe. Pay attention here. Right? And then give it a little downward, and then bring them up together. Palm not so high, Joe. And then bring them down slowly and reverse it. That's right. And then bring them up together. All the way, a little jolt like that. And then as you let them go down, allow your eyelids to close. That's right. All the way down. And as you do so, you'll notice, careful there, lady, do not do anything but come out of trance. There we go. And then have somebody there to gently sit you down into a chair. You all can come back now, yeah? Y'all come back. We almost lost someone here. Let's always forget how much, this is a very powerful technique. The smoother and more gentle it is, the deeper you will go into a trance. What it does is it takes something called the advanced techniques of accelerated cross-cortical research, better known as confusion. And it takes the fact that you have something called control.
Oh, sit down, man.
Little body catalepsy there, huh? You know, if you're going to do body catalepsy, there are certain places that it's more beneficial than others. But that does not apply to you except in certain ways. That's right. Don't blush now. You know what an anchor is? That's right. We could paint her red.
There we go.
That's right. And he anchored it. Smart man, didn't miss it. I like you devious guys. Richard listens to the response, and you take it home. They always did that when I played rock and roll. You know, me, I warm up the engine, and you take him home and park in the garage. Well, now, what I want you to do is to try this, and what are you laughing for? This tape's going to be great, you know. Look at the thing in focus. That's when I did that thing with Milton, you know, tried to do the thing. I hired a guy to film him. The guy said, "That's right," and go all the way in trance, and it blurs out, and the camera goes to the floor. 45 minutes of floor. And you can wake up now, and the camera goes up, and he goes into focus. I said, all trance applies to everyone but the man running the camera focusedly and clearly, so that in clear water, they will have the learnings of the Court Flag Hotel. Now, I want your unconscious minds to do one thing for you tonight, which is to make something you do inordinately easier and more exquisitely fun in a way that it just kind of shocks you and puts a smile on your face that's called a smirk, and gets somebody else to drool out of the corner of their mouth. Now, I don't want to go around putting ideas into your heads.
Okay, I'm running out of voice here, the only problem. And since I'm running out of voice, it's a good thing that it's a hypnosis workshop. Because you will be able to supply what's not there. Now, this morning, what I'd like to do, how many people in here have done something called chaining before? Chaining. That's where you take somebody and you put them against a wall. Now, one of the things that about doing hypnosis itself does raise possibilities. One of the things about doing hypnosis itself, especially for those of you who have some kind of a clinical background, is it really is a fantastic tool for therapists, because most of them seem to suffer from a disease of not knowing when they succeeded and when they haven't. Now, for those, it's very difficult. So they come up with what I refer to as the fudge factor, or the finagle phenomenon, of telling you things like, well, somewhere inside you, this is changing. Now, I always remember Virginia Satir referred to that process as yeasting, a bad choice of words, especially if you're doing things in deep trance. Now, doing things in deep trance requires that you go ahead and you try lots and lots of things. I've found out when I've been teaching hypnotic patterns or NLP patterns, which, by the way, are not profoundly different in nature, that one of the things that's very helpful is if the hypnotists themselves, for example, yesterday we were doing something to change the belief of somebody who is going into a trance so that they would be able to go into a deeper trance. You did that yesterday, right? Did you find that makes it easier? This is yes. Boy, what'd you guys do? I thought I stayed up late. Now, what I want you to do is to take some simple things, which is, if you take the phenomenon of hesitation as a response, that all of those language patterns, it's okay, I don't have to spell, just think auditorily. It's my way of getting back at visuals while they're eliciting responses. Now, what I want you to do is, you do know what anchoring is. Do people know what an anchor is? Just like the reinduction signals that when I had you do the double induction, the thing that you can go now is you remember now when you sit down and you're going to do something with somebody today, it's going to be a lot faster because they're going to have something to assist you in putting them into a deep trance. It's an anchor, you remember it? Hello? Never mind. What? You did that at home with other people. Okay. Now, one of the things that both NLP concentrate on and hypnosis is setting up a direction for activity. Now, as a hypnotist, or as a hypnotizing hypnotist in this case, what I'd like you to be able to do is to use anchoring in the following way. To be able to take and put someone into a deep trance, to practice your inductions, which is the first thing that you're going to do in this exercise, and then what I want you to do is more conversationally than you normally do in NLP. I want you to begin to describe to this person 5 different responses and to anchor them. Now, how many of you have seen the Milton Erickson tape where he works with Monday? In here? Now, on that tape, what Milton does is he very slowly goes along and he just... Pardon? Did you say something? Oh. All right. He very slowly goes along and he elicits 5 different experiences. In the case of Mondi, he refers to and goes back to her past to a time when she was chasing ducks with abandonment. That was duck chasing Mondi. He also goes back and gives her spanking, something I mentioned the other day. And you see, as he goes through her past and has her do age regression for window breaking Mondi, he also uses age regression as a vehicle to get back to a time when she was chasing ducks with abandonment. Now, the 5 responses that I want you to get are here, somewhat. First one is impatience, is hesitation. You see, in order to be able to use the hypnotic skills that you're getting here and all the NLP skills, you need to be able to just go for it. And a lot of times what I noticed is people begin to practice, because all the things we learned yesterday, I want you to start putting together into a package. What I want you to do is to use age regression, primarily, and something called finger signals. Finger signals are where, when you have somebody in a deep trance, you reach over and you lift up one finger, and you tell them, that's your no finger, and you lift up the other finger, and you say, that's your yes finger. And you say, now, as I communicate with you and ask you questions, you can answer me unconsciously with honest, unconscious movement by signaling with the fingers. Now, this gives you a way of doing a couple of things. One is playing 20 questions. In order to make it so that this person in the future uses the skills easily, what we're going to do is to go from what I find to be the major disease that gets in everybody's way, hesitating. We're going to find a graceful way of getting from hesitation, because going from hesitation to go for it's a pretty radical jump. You ever notice that when you were hesitating? So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a direction with 5 different responses. See, we're going to go from hesitation to frustration. See, that's not too hard. And from frustration to impatience. And from impatience to wanton desire. Now, we'll think of it. Yes, I know. They have wanton soup. Now, what you're going to do, and then the next thing we're going to do is to go for it. Now, have you ever had the experience where you just went for something, just tried it, all kinds of variations, just to see what you could do? Now, usually when people have that, it isn't in the context where they really would like to have it. They do this instead. So you're going to go through and take each of these responses, and you're going to go and make it anchor of some kind. Now, once you have the anchors, you can use age regression to get there. You can go back and tell them to go back and remember a time where they hesitated. To think of all the times and places in your past and in your future where you stop yourself, where you hold back. Now, I want you to take one of those now. And as you notice those kinds of changes on their face, you can either anchor kinesthetically or pick their name and say their name was Fred. You can then say, as you see it come up on their face, you can go, hesitating Fred. Now, whether you use an auditory anchor or you use a kinesthetic anchor, as soon as you get the next one, which is frustrated Fred, what you're going to do is you're going to fire off the first anchor, and as you notice the changes coming up on their face, you're going to put down the second anchor and lift up the first one. And then wait, and you can talk about whatever you feel like talking about. That is one of the nice things about hypnosis if you're a therapist, is that they shut up and you talk for a change. You can also give them amnesia for their problems, and if they don't pay their bill, you can get their memory back. Or you can give them amnesia for the address of your office. Now, once you do this, then you come back to it and you fire off just the first anchor, number 1. And what will happen is it will automatically go from number 1 to number 2. And when you see it, then you fire off number 3. And then you sort of talk about this and that. You go back, and when you fire number 1, number 2, and number 3 will automatically come up. And then you add number 4. Now, I would like to caution you about one thing that I've noticed. Every now and then, when we do this with people, when people go through this, and they go, now, you can feel that hesitation. It turns to frustration. And you're so impatient that you begin to feel that wanton desire. And last time I did this in a group, somebody said, so open your eyes and go for it. Now, I would recommend that unless that's what you're after, that you make sure that you don't do that. Now, I would also like you to then go back to the finger signals themselves and ask their unconscious mind if there is some hypnotic phenomenon. You have your little list with the hypnotic phenomenon on it? You know, arm catalepsy? Do they have one of those? Now, as you do, then I want you to ask them and say, now I'm going to ask your unconscious mind if it's made all the necessary exchanges for you to be able to take Fred all the way back in time, honestly. Now, words like honestly have semantic density. Now, that semantic packing means that you are allowed to go back honestly, which means you don't get partial age regression. You get more total age regression. You become younger. Now, if you want to do this somewhat more creatively, you can do things like have people look at the book of time and turn it back 1 year. And each time they turn that page back, they become 1 year younger. And they can look at that year and then reach out and turn another page until they get back to a year where they can find the strongest example of one of these things, like wanting desire. Wanting desire. Now, once you've gone through all of this, use the finger signals as a way of getting them to do the hypnotic phenomenon, set up the responses for your chain, and when you fire them off, then I want you to give the person what's called a post-hypnotic suggestion. That means that when you come out of this trance, whenever you find yourself starting to hesitate about learning to do something new with these tools here, or in any way that infringes upon the quality of your life, what will happen will be, and then just fire off the first anchor. You should see the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. And then you tell them to slowly bring themselves out of trance and to retain all of what they've learned. Because a lot of times people come out and everything they learned, they leave in the trance. So you also tell them that the learnings of the trance will come out of the trance, and so will they. So now what I want you to do is to find yourself a partner. Yes, sir. No? What do you mean, no? Shush. Yes, sir. Yes. No. Different one for each one. Did you have a question? What was it?
What I meant was, it would work better for me if you demonstrate.
I don't care. It's easier for you to have me do it, but guess what? I'm not going to be there in the future, but I am going to demonstrate afterwards. I'm not visual, so I don't want to do it that way. See, I do it afterwards, so after you mushed your way through it, then I can show you, and you'll know what to look for, because you have an example in your own experience, kinesthetically, visually, and auditorily. You see, there are millions of things that you can do with this. But if I show you first, then especially the old eidetic visuals, will do it just that way every time with no variation. So especially for you visuals, I'm not doing it first. That gives you a lot more range of how to do things. You see, I've already done it before. That's why we call it a workshop. So get you a partner and go to work. All right? And as you do, I want you to notice which side of your body is closest to the source of heat. Because what I want you to do, if, for example, you're near a fire, I want you to notice how that side begins to become warmer than the other side. And as you do whatever thing fits for you, I want you to let that warmth spread. And I want you to begin to speed the movie up faster and faster, and let the warmth spread more and more. That's right. Now, as you warm yourself for a few moments here, I want you to realize that you're sitting on the precipice of an unusual opportunity. Because the next thing I'm going to have you do, in terms of an exercise, is to invent some new technique. In a particular way, of course. I want you, as you warm yourself comfortably, to begin to think about the submodalities of just the situation you are in. And think, wouldn't it be strange if the submodalities of one system affected another? You see, for example, Milton Erickson, M.D., of Phoenix, Arizona, did a set of experiments with hypnosis where he did things like induced colorblindness. Now, when he induced hypnotically colorblindness, something funny happened. Some of the people became tone deaf, which might lead one to believe that there is what's called synesthesia overlaps from one system to another. Now, what you're going to do is to consider, for example, right now, if you reached over and fired off that anchor that you have on your arm for yourself to deepen your trance, and that was to allow you to go deep enough. That's right. That your unconscious mind would begin to make all the necessary changes such that pain control for you can be accomplished by saying that everything that you felt in one arm took every single amount of pressure and turned it into a volume. But the particular location of where you were touched determined what sound. Such that if somebody rubbed your arm, you wouldn't feel a thing, but you'd hear the sound of something. It's a lot more fun way to deal with pain control. See, very often, it's done differently. And your unconscious mind will understand this. See, on your other arm, you can begin to feel an ice cube. And that ice cube could become colder and colder and spread, just like what it would take to the point where if you put ice on something long enough, if you were to touch it with a pin, prick, you wouldn't feel anything at all. Now let that ice cube go away and go back to that other arm. And let your unconscious imagine what it would be like if more thoroughly you took any system and chose to have parts of one system go into another. Now, for the purposes here, I want your unconscious mind to sit down and look at the nice list of submodalities that you either wrote down or you can hallucinate on the blackboard now. Or you can ask someone who did. And I want you to just randomly, for no unbeknownst reason, realize there's no need to hesitate. And there's no need to wait. I want you to just circle or choose a few submodalities and move them from one system to the other. So that, like the last time I did this, I ended up playing songs on someone's arm by making the higher up the arm, the higher the pitch, the lower down the arm, the lower the pitch. The more I pressed, the louder while I played that song, somebody operated on that arm, and they didn't feel anything in that arm at all. However, what they were listening to had some strange static in the background. Now, the other thing you can do would be as if you took auditory external and you made pitch go to a feeling, and volume go to the pressure of that feeling, and moisture. Now, I want you, just for the sake of experimentation, to realize in the moment you're going to come out of this trance and you're going to go back into another one with a partner, and I want you to begin to vary the kinesthetic sensations that you have by turning them into sound or pictures. For example, if people have problems because they are constantly hungry, and this has a tendency to enlarge their body, those sensations, the cravings that people get, could instead of be something they felt in their body, it could be something that was put up into a picture. And the more intense the feeling, the further the picture goes away. These synesthesia patterns themselves open up many choices. And I want you also, as long as you have that person in the trance, to also again set up finger signals. And the way that you do this is first to get them into a deep trance, deeper still. Set up finger signals, and then ask their unconscious if it would be all right for you for a period which you define 5 minutes or 10 minutes to allow them to make all the necessary adjustments at the unconscious level to make whatever series of changes at the level of submodalities that you choose. So look at your charts when you come out of trance and pick something weird and exciting. The little exercise that you just did there, how'd you do it? That's pretty weird stuff, isn't it? Yeah, that's using your mind just strangely enough. Now, the number of purposes that you can use this sort of thing for is really enormous. You can use it for pain control, and you can use it in order to change all kinds of things. And one of the things that I would like to sort of add to it is, it seems to me that there's been an overemphasis in hypnosis on pain control, on making things go away, rather than putting things there that are extremely pleasurable. Now, I don't know about you guys, but being somebody who really believes in more ecstasy now, I thought perhaps if you had a vehicle where you could do a very rapid trance induction, because, I mean, now you're kind of getting the idea of putting people in trance. You've been going in and out of trance all along. Now it's...
I need to check that. How many of you have gone into a trance? Now, seriously, raise your hands when you went into trance. Okay, so that's 100%. How many of you forgot? Jack, you fell off the chair here.
Yeah. He wasn't himself, so it doesn't count. I know. Now, yes, that's true. You can get away with anything with that one. You just simply say, you know, anything you do that you shouldn't have done, you just look at somebody and go, I wasn't myself. I was her. So blame her. Now, the thing is if you had a really quick way, in other words, of if, you know, because, you know, when you meet people, sometimes, you know, they're not in a good mood. You ever notice that? Now, if you had a way that you could incorporate a really rapid induction and then be able to take and make somebody feel really good. Now, I'm going to give you a little something, and Ed's going to give you a little something he has. Something that we did together in Miami till they burned the hotel down. Floods of hypnosis. See, I looked up at the ceiling and started talking about water coming through it, and the sprinklers came on. I never hypnotized a building before. Now,
How many of you were there while we got sprinkled on? That was a tasty one.
So Richard's not too paranoid of hotel fires. After all the years I've been traveling, I was the first one down, and I was on the top floor. And then we went and had coffee in the lobby while the rest of the people tried to get out. What amazed me is over half the people on the floor where the fire were didn't hear the alarm and didn't wake up at all. These people need to speak to their unconscious mind and say, look, sleeping soundly is wonderful, but hear this, this, and this. That's one of the nice things about hypnosis is that you can change your mind in that way. Also, those of you, by the way, is there anybody in here who has any insomnia? Guess not anymore, huh? I'm sure you guys were insomniacs last night.
I don't hear anything when I'm asleep.
Well, you can make yourself hear them if you want to.
I was interested in what you were saying.
Oh, okay. Well, you just wait a minute, and I'll tell you. That's like shut up. Okay. Now, the thing is the way you program your mind is very simple. You go into trance, and you tell yourself that you can hear, and then you name specifically what it is. For example, you can also program yourself when you go into trance by yourself, especially, to come out at a specific time. To say, in exactly 10 minutes. Your biological clock is rather noisy, is it not? Now, what I want to do is I want to give you a little rapid induction, and then rapid induction. Before I give it to you, though, what I want you to do is to just close your eyes for a minute and pretend that you're in trance. Just for a second. Just, like for example, just reach over and touch yourself on the arm. And go into a trance deeply. And as you do so, I want you to remember a time when you had a really wonderful feeling. And as you remember, I want that feeling itself to begin to spread. And with each breath, it's going to grow, and become wider, and bigger, and stronger, especially if it has a giggle attached to it. Now, as I continue to speak, each word I say, I want that feeling to grow stronger and stronger and stronger. And I want whatever it's about to become faster. There you go. Put it in hyperdrive. Now I want you to spread that feeling all and up and down. Each leg, right down to your toes. And then make it stronger in your toe and have it rush up the inside of your legs. Right across your stomach and up to your nose. Now, playing with your feelings is fun. Playing with other people's feelings is also fun. So now I want you to come out of trance for a moment. There you go. You don't have to come all the way out, though. Just as much as you want to. Now, one of the things that Milton did that I always thought was kind of hip was he was giving a lecture, much the same as I am here. And in the days that he did it, people didn't believe that there was such a thing as hypnosis. And Milton got up, and he was giving a lecture, as Milton does, about going into a trance. And while he continued the lecture, they had a person that falls into the category of a dickhead in the audience. That's an academic term for somebody who thinks with the lowest part of their body. And I mean, that's when they have their feet up in the air. Now, academicians, I've always thought that academic education was a profoundly good name for most of what they do there. But anyway, for anybody to say there's no such thing as hypnosis, and there's no such thing as altered states, has never driven on the road for a long time. But, and to try and measure that is not nearly as useful as just doing it. Now, the thing that he did is this particular person said that he couldn't be hypnotized. Milton said, so you can't go into a trance. No, and so Milton asked him to go up on the stage with him. And the man walked down, lumbered up the steps, started across the stage, and Milton said, and what is your name? Reached out his hand, and he did what's called a handshake interrupt, where a motor program that's a very basic automated thing is interrupted. And there's nothing there, and so you fill it with a trance. And then at the end, you go back, and you complete it and shake your hand, and everything in the middle has amnesia and is gone. So the man who came up and said it demonstrated all these hypnotic phenomena to the audience. And then Milton put him back in the right position. And Milton shook his hand and said, oh, it's nice to meet you. And the man had total amnesia for everything that was in between. And sat there and denied that he had done any of those things and called Milton a charlatan. And Milton said, well, one of us is not all here.